All right. And good day, everyone. And welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles with your coach and your host and your guide and your temporary teacher. And whatever I can be in order to help humanity to awaken to the reality of their true self. And I'm so delighted that you have chosen to share in this moment with us here at Truly Foundation, where we say that the real you loves you because the real you is love. You know, the Bible says that God is love. So if God is love, what God creates and what God can only create is likened to himself. So God created us. So that means that what we are love, that the real you, the real essence of who you are, the real nature of who you are is love. Because the one source of all creation is love. And the principle of creation says that only love can create like unto itself. And so therefore you are love. Love is whole. Love is complete. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love is fearless. Love is courageous. Love is sure of itself. Love is certain. Love is infinite. Love is self-fulfilling. Love is all-powerful. Love is everywhere present. Love is all knowledge or all-knowing. All these adjectives, these descriptive words that I'm using, really, they are describing who we are. It may not be who we think that we are, because, all of us fell into this virus of believing that we are something that we're not. All of us got impacted by the virus of believing that separation actually occurred, that we actually were successful at separating ourselves, the creation, from our creator, that we're separate from God, that God is not who we are or what we are, but God is a separate entity. And we are something different and something outside of God, something separate from God. And so this idea, which we talked about in our last 10 lessons, which is, we call it the ego idea, which basically at the foundation of the ego thought system is our belief in separation. That we believe at the core of the ego thought system, at the core of our suffering, at the core of our fear, there is an idea, there is a belief that separation actually occurred, that we can actually be separate from our creator, that we can actually be separate from one another. Though we appear here in these individuated bodies, we have identified ourselves as bodies. And all of this has caused us to go into a perception of ourselves that has brought all the pain and suffering that we've ever experienced. Humanity has brought it on to himself. And so when our elder brother showed up 2023 years ago, as the book says, or as history says, our elder brother came into this world and he experienced for himself the mental condition of humanity. And he took it upon himself because he understood that what God had created from the very beginning, it was still intact. It was still unaltered and unchanged. But that which God created somehow, somewhere, embraced the idea that a separation had occurred. And so if you look at most of all the religions of the world, if you look at most of all of the systems of this world, those religions, those systems are built on an idea of separation and division. As though love has been defeated, as though God has lost his power, as though as the truth has been undone, as though as humanity was successful at becoming their own self, their own creation. And thus we create a world with all the history in the world. But I am here today to declare and decree that we remain, you, I, and all creation, all humanity. We remain as we were created. There has never and will never be any alteration to what God creates. Truth cannot be altered. Truth cannot be changed. Reality cannot be altered or changed. Love cannot be altered or changed. Who you are as the creation of God, you cannot be altered or changed in your essence or in your nature. It's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. And so when we embrace this reality, something happens. It's called the awakening. Something happened. We called it being born again. We call it enlightenment. And it's not a change at all. It's simply a recognition that what God created remains, and that we remain as God created us, as the holy, infinite, innocent, complete creations of God, created not only in the image, not only in the likeness, but in the very essence of which God is. And so we are indeed love. We are indeed the love creations of God, whether we recognize it or affirm it or not. To recognize it is to experience it. To deny it is to experience pain and suffering and anxiety and fear and sin consciousness and guilt. And who wants that? I've tried it and I didn't like it. And I'm sure that has been your experience too, that you tried this individual personal self that seemed to be separate from each other and separate from God. And you didn't like it. And I didn't like it either. And so on today, we are going to start a brand new 10-day series, as we are only 25 lessons away from completing the 365 lessons in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. I said from the beginning, we're going to start this back on January 9th, 2022. I said, we're going to start this project. We're going to take this journey of renewing our mind, this journey of mind training, this journey of correction. And we're going to stay on this journey until we finish. We are only 25 lessons away, and I'm so excited about that. Why? not because we're coming to the end of the workbook lessons, but it is only the beginning. It is only the beginning. Is it only the beginning of an adventure to shine the light that we are in every moment of our life, for the rest of our life, for the rest of this earthly life? Because, there is no end to our life, because we are eternal. We are infinite beings. We're just like our Creator. We're just like our source. We are just like our Father. And so there is no end. There is no beginning. There is no place where you end and God begin. There is no place where God begin and you end. There is only the one. And so whatever experience God has is the experience that you have. Whatever glory that is to be experienced by God or by love or by reality is the glory that you will experience, because you and God and love and reality are one and the same. No separation. So that makes me happy. That makes me thrilled. That makes me excited. And I'm excited about how this message of A Course in Miracles, how this message of our oneness with God and each other is spreading all around the world. In other words, Jesus said that the kingdom of God, this message of our oneness, he said it is all over the world. He said it has covered all the earth. And those that are awake are not only hearing it, seeing it, but sharing it. Sharing our oneness with each other. Sharing the thrill of knowing that we are eternally the innocent, loving creations of God. And that eternity is right now. And that we are in eternity right now. And then for those that still may be a little asleep, a little unaware, we are here for their awakening. Because their awakening is the awakening of the world. Just like your awakening is the awakening of all the world. Because there's only one of us. And so as we start this next 10 lessons, we're going to be sharing these lessons under the theme and learning what is a miracle. This next 10 lessons about sharing the awareness of what is a miracle, and the place and the importance of a miraculous life, or being a miracle worker, plays in our fulfillment, in our role as the light of the world. So what is a miracle? I know when I heard the word miracle before I became a course student 15, 17 years ago, I thought miracles were, what I had learned miracles were. But lo and behold, I have discovered that miracles are simply a correction to a misperception. When we are in a place of illusion, when we are in a place of wrong perception, when we perceive ourselves and others and our God and our world as something that is fragmented, that is misperception. And so what is needed in the mind that is misperceiving is just simply correction. And so the Course uses the term miracle as that correction. So, I've heard so many people say, Oh, I have that book, A Course in Miracles, or I saw the book, A Course in Miracles, and I didn't get it, or I got it and I haven't read it because, you know, I I really didn't need to. I really wasn't interested in working miracles, or or my understanding of miracles. I'm not a miracle worker. I didn't. I just didn't have any interest in miracles. We're thinking from a misperception or a limited idea, just based on our conditioning or what we have been exposed to. But Jesus did not name his course A Course in Miracles for nothing. It is purposeful, because we're going to learn in this section what a miracle is from A Course in Miracles perspective. And we will be able even to look back on our conditioning and on our traditions and say, oh, I see. It wasn't as supernatural as we made it out to be. It wasn't as woo-woo as we make it out to be. Miracles are not a woo-woo. Miracles are natural. And as Jesus defined miracles in the Course, and as the Course defines miracle and its role in our awakening, we will better understand ourselves, our role. We will better understand the corrective process that we cannot avoid. We will better understand why transformation is so vital, why the renewing of the mind is our first job. It's our only job, is to renew our mind to the truth that is true always. And so that is what has inspired me to become a teacher of love, a teacher of reality, a teacher of God. And I found out that the only qualification one needs to be a teacher of God is a discovery that my interest is everyone's interest. That I don't have a separate interest, that I don't have a separate will, but we'll all have the one interest and we all have the one will that we all share. The Bible talks about the will of God. Jesus talked about allowing the will of God to be done on earth as it is in heaven. The one will, the one interest. And Jesus talks about all things being reconciled back unto God, unto himself, into the oneness. The whole theme of his message was oneness. The whole theme of his life was bringing awareness to humanity that they are the creations of God, that we're all one in God, and that we're all of the one existence of God, the family of God. We're all one. The brotherhood of humanity, the sisterhood of humanity, that we're all one. That all of the division and the separation, all of the fear and the anguish, all of the culture that we have made up ourselves to keep us divided, was all designed to keep us from this awareness. And so, what is a miracle? That is the question. What is a miracle according to the Course in Miracles, according to Jesus's course, according to what we're going to be sharing here in the next 10 lessons? And so, on page 473 in the workbook lesson for Course in Miracles is a little section here that talks about what is a miracle, and we're going to get into that today. And also, if you a possessor of the book A Course in Miracles, you know that the first part of the book starts out with what it calls the meaning of miracles, principles of miracles, and it shares 50 miracle principles right at the beginning of the text. And if you get into the book for the first time and you've just read through the 50 miracle principles, a lot of it will not make as much sense to you as it would if you actually went through the 365 workbook lessons that gives us a progressive step by step unfolding of and correction to the process of understanding who we are, and understanding the creation process, and understanding our oneness, and understanding the atonement, and understanding the reality that nothing has been altered from its original state. And the only thing that needs correction is our perception. And so, here at the first of the book, it talks about miracles. I'm going to read a few of these before I get into what is a miracle. And the first thing it says that there is no order of difficulties in miracles. That one miracle is not harder or bigger than another. That they are all the same. That all miracles are the same. Why? Because all miracles are an expression of love. Notice what it said now. It said that miracle is something supernatural. It says that, because what we're going to find out is that miracles are natural. They're not supernatural. If everything remained as it was from the beginning, then there is no super. There's only the natural. That is only our natural state of being, which is love, which is peace, which is joy. That is natural. So nothing can supersede that which is natural. So to love is natural. To be at peace is natural. To be fulfilled, to be loving and kind is natural. To walk in health is natural. To be fearless is natural. These things are natural. But because we have experienced a world that it is so unnatural for these things to be constant in one's life, we think it takes something supernatural in order to bring us into that experience. In reality, it doesn't. Here it says that all miracles are expressions of love. There's no one bigger than another. In this world of form where there's so many differences, so many levels, we think it takes more of something, more correction to be applied to one thing versus another. But here it's saying that in reality, that all miracles are maximal. None is harder than another. The same correction in your thinking that it takes for the pain to go away on your toenail. It's the same love that can correct any major event in your life, any traumatic event in your life. It's saying that the same forgiveness that it takes for you to be reconciled to your coworker, it's the same forgiveness that it takes for you to be reconciled to your mate or your children or your neighbor. In other words, it's saying it is only a return to our natural state, which is love, our natural state, which is peace, our natural state, which is being free of fear and anxiety. It says miracles as such do not matter. The only thing that matters is their source. So it's not the miracle, it's not the correction that matters. It is the source of the correction that matters. What is the source of all correction? The source of all correction is love. The source of all correction is God. The source of all correction is truth. The source of all correction is our realignment to the truth of who we are, embracing our true identity, our true self. It says the only thing that matters is its source, which is beyond anything that we can evaluate. It says miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. Think about that. Any expression of love, here the Course said, it is a miracle. It says the real miracle is the love that inspires them. So the real miracle is the source or the love that inspires every act of love. When you get inspired to be at peace with yourself, to be at peace with your neighbor, when you get inspired to forgive a past hurt or a past pain, when you get inspired to let go of anything that no longer serves you, when you get inspired to share your abundance with others, when you get inspired to share your life with another unconditionally. It says the miracle is the love that inspires you, not the act itself, but the love that inspires. That is what is miraculous. Reality is miraculous. Love is miraculous. God is miraculous. And if we have been born of love and born of God, that means that what? We are miraculous, which is natural, which is our natural state of being. And so it goes on to say that all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct us very specifically, and we will be told all we need to know. Miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided, and we've seen the abuse of that, where people call themselves performing miracles. And they should, here it says that they should be under the control. They should not be under conscious control, because consciously controlled miracles can be misguided. So when we scurry off to go to some miracle event, those are consciously guided miracles. And here we'll see that it goes on to say that miracles that are consciously guided, it says the use of miracles as a spectacle to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. In other words, miracles have never induced belief. Miracles have never produced faith, but they only produce misunderstanding. You ever seen someone that say, oh, I got a miracle, I got a healing, I got this, I got that, something miraculously happened, and then you go check with them 10 days later and you see what happens. They're back in the same boat. Why? Because it doesn't induce faith. And if it's consciously guided, it misguides us into the purpose of miracles. Because here it says that miracle is every act of love. It says miracles are a kind of exchange, like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense. The exchange reverses the physical law. They bring more love both to the giver and to receiver. If something is miraculous, It brings love to both the giver and the receiver. And then it goes on to say that miracles are thoughts. And then as we get into this, and as we get into this next 10 weeks of study, we're going to find out that not only miracles are an act of love, but miracles is merely a shift in our perception. It's a shift in the way that we perceive ourselves and others, this world, God, reality. And that miracles should happen naturally among equals. Miracles should happen among ourselves. They should happen on this horizontal plane among humanity, where we are providing for one another, where we're taking our abundance and providing for those that may be in lack. That is miraculous when that happens. Anytime you share your resources with another, not only are they blessed, but you are blessed. That is miraculous. And that's a natural state of being. It's a natural occurrence. Like it says here, miracles are natural occurrences. And it says it says miracles are natural. And when they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are everyone's right. Miracles are healings because they supply a lack. They are performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. There it is right there. And it should happen among us naturally. It should not be coerced. It should not be rehearsed. It should not be demanded. One should not mislead. One should not coerce, or one should not, what's the word I'm trying to use? Should not con another out of their resources either. But miracles should happen naturally. When you wake up in the morning, naturally you should be at peace. Naturally you should be loving. Naturally you should have a sense of oneness, a sense of innocence. Naturally you should have a sense of wholeness. And we don't have those natural experiences. Why? Because we have a part of our mind that is not renewed, and we haven't done anything about it, and we're not doing anything about it. And so we fight with our mind all day. We fight with our natural thoughts. We fight with our conditionings. We fight with our paradigms, our habits, our traditions, all of the things that promotes the ego thought system of separation. And we fight with that all day because we are not in the process of being transformed from this world and being renewed in the spirit of our minds. By what? By the renewal of our mind. And so this is just a few of the 50 miracle principles that are right here at the beginning of A Course in Miracles. But we're not going to go through all 50 of them for the lack of time. But we're going to talk about and really answer the question, or the Course is going to answer the question, what is a miracle? What is it? I'm going to start out by saying that just like everything else in this temporal world, including our bodies, everything that is in form is a symbol. It's not reality. There's nothing in form that's reality. It's only a symbol. But what is it a symbol of? Well, that depends on the condition of the mind. It depends on the condition of the mind. If the mind is renewed into the oneness that it shares, and the one interest that it shares, and the one will that it shares with all creation and the Creator. Then that which is informed would demonstrate to be a symbol of love, a symbol of peace, a symbol of oneness, a symbol of joy, a symbol of adventure, of discovery. But if that symbol in form is operating from an awareness, from a perception, from a mindset of separation, of division, then along with that will come guilt and sin consciousness. Then that thing in form, be it a body, be it be it whatever form it is, it will represent a symbol of separation. It will represent a symbol of fear. It will represent a symbol of lack, a symbol of inferiority or superiority, and all the other negative, dark expressions that we see in the world. Hatred, inequality, fear, guilt, pain and suffering, sickness and disease, hatred. It will represent a division, a separation, war and fighting. So everything in this world is either a symbol of love or a symbol of peace, a symbol of love, or it's a symbol of separation, depending on the mind that is perceiving it, or the mind that is operating through it. Because all form is neutral. It has no mind of its own. All form is formless. All form, it has no meaning. It only takes on the meaning of the mind that perceives it. And so it is the mind that determines the value of everything. It has been your mind and my mind that has determined the value of everything in my life, everything in your life. Our state of mind. And when the mind has been awakened and renewed, when the mind has embraced its true reality of oneness and of the one will and of the one interest, when the mind has embraced its own innocence, then everything in the world can be used by that mind to be an expression of love. Every relationship, every event, every activity can be an expression of love. Everything that you do in your life through a renewed mind will become an expression of oneness, will become an expression of reality, will become an expression of love. Regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of what's going on outside of you, regardless of what the history has been, regardless of what the statistics say. An awakened mind transcends all the limitations of this world. And so you're able to love everything and everyone, regardless of what they've done or haven't done. You're able to transcend it. You'll be able to transcend every hurt, every pain, every disappointment, every mistreatment. When you know who you are, when the mind has been renewed with Christ's vision, when we embrace that mind that was in Christ. That's why the writer said, let this mind be in you, this renewed mind, this original mind that in its original state is loving. He said, allow this mind to be in you. That was also in Jesus of Nazareth. It was not just for the one experience, but for all of our experience. Let this one mind be in you that was also in Jesus of Nazareth, who being in the form, notice not even when Jesus was in form, he said he was in the form of God. That's why you are in the form of God right here, right now, where you are, whether you know it or not. You are in the form of God. He said, being in the form of God. Look at it. Philippians 2, 5, and 6. This one mind that we are employed to allow to be our natural state of being. He said that when Jesus was in the form of God, he thought it not robbery to be equal with God. Why is that? Because he understood his oneness with God, his equality with God. And he understood he wasn't robbing God or taking anything away from the reality of the one source that we all share. He wasn't taking nothing from God by saying, I have equality with God, just like in the natural. A natural son, when he calls his daddy father, when he called his dad father, or his father dad, what he's saying is, I have equality with my maker. I have the same ability. I have the same power. I have the same nature. I have the same life. I am the same self that my Father is. I have been created in the image and likeness of my dad. I have equality with my dad, and I'm going to prove it to you as I develop that I can do everything and exceeding and abundantly more than my dad did. That's why Jesus said that even for us, he said we would do greater works even in what he did. Why? Because we have the same Father. Because we have equality just like he did. Not only with him, but with God the Father and all humanity. This is a mindset. This is the mindset that we have to have if we're going to embrace our reality. If we're going indeed to be the light of the world, if we are going to indeed be the saviors of this world, if we are indeed are going to be the miracle workers that we've been called to be, to help people come back to their natural state of being, because miracles are natural. They're not supernatural. It's not as woo-woo as we thought it was. In fact, we took woo-woo and use it. The ego thought system took woo-woo, took religion, and use it as a way to keep us and push us even further from our reality by further dividing humanity, dividing us along religious lines, dividing us along racial lines, dividing us along political lines, dividing us along every conceivable state of being. We have division, and it's all designed to keep us from our natural state of oneness and love and peace and tranquility and abundance and joy and happiness and fulfillment. But we are here in this space, Truly Foundation, to bring this awareness to all humanity, to bring the message of the real you, the real Christ that you are, the innocent creation of God that you are, to bring that message to the four corners of the world, so that we do our part. So we do our part. And so, what is a miracle? You know, I'm already excited about this study, this next 10 lessons. I hope you stay with me. This is really going to expand our understanding This is going to expand our knowing of ourselves and the value of our life, that it has really deep meaning, that your life has deep meaning and good purpose. And we are not just here by chance. We're not here in 2023 just because we were born in this last 90 years. But we are here because it has been ordained that we be here in this moment of time, which is the greatest time in the history of humanity. There's never been so many people that have awakened to the truth. There have never been so many people that are aware of their Christ self. So yes, we are in a grand awakening. Depending on who you talk to. They would say, hey, the world is going bad, it's getting worse, it's all of this and that. Well, that's coming from a mind that's still asleep and afraid. But the one who has awakened to the truth, like Jesus said, the kingdom of God is everywhere. The presence of God, it's everywhere. You can see it. Not through these two natural eyes, but you see it through the revelation, through the unfolding, through the recognition of our oneness. And that is the correction that we all need. We need to see through the eyes of God. We need to see through Christ's vision. We need to know really what is going on behind the scene. Well, it's not a secret, and it's not just for the special ones. There's no specialness in God. There's no specialness in love. It is for everyone. The call of God has gone out to everyone. Jesus said, all have been called. Few has chosen. So it is a choice that you make. It is a choice when you hear the truth. It is a choice that you make where you come to recognize that you don't have an individual interest, but you have a universal interest, and it is shared with all humanity. That we're all one grand creation of God. We are the brotherhood and the sisterhood of God, and there is no difference. There is no separation. There is no division. One blood, one life, one confident, one certainty, one eternity, one infinitus experience that we're all having. So, what is a miracle? It says that a miracle is a correction. It is a correction, not to something that is real, but it's a correction to something that is not real. Because that which is real doesn't need correction. That which is false, that which is unreal needs a correction. That which is an illusion, that needs a correction. And just think about it. If it's not real, if it's false, or if it's an illusion, in reality, it doesn't even exist. So the correction that is brought on is the letting go of a misperception about something and embracing the truth or the reality that is already present, that is everywhere present. And so here, right off the bat, it says a miracle is a correction. It is a correction. This whole course, this whole 365 lessons, all of the text that is found in A Course in Miracles, all of the other supplements that's in the back of the book of A Course in Miracles. It's all designed to be a correction. Why is it necessary for there to be a correction? That means that an error must have occurred. Notice now, the Course said there is no such thing as sin. We made that up. So a sin hasn't occurred, but an error has occurred, or a mistake has occurred. And the one thing we know about errors and the one thing we know about mistakes is that errors and mistakes can be corrected. See, the whole concept of sin is that it can't be corrected. It has to be atoned for. That is not a God idea. That idea came from the belief in separation. And that the only way to correct sin is through death. The only way to correct sin is to kill innocence. And it makes no sense at all. But we have bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Even to the point that we've made God an unloving father. Why do we say that? Because what father will send his only begotten to be sacrificed for an illusion? None of us. What natural father would send his only son to be sacrificed for something that's not even real? None of us. So how do we think the all-wise God would do it? Well, we have given that assessment that God sent his only son. So just think about it. That engenders fear. If God would send an innocent to be slaughtered, the first thought comes to your mind is what about me? So that doesn't engender love. It engenders fear. Why? Because it's not the truth. Jesus made up in his own mind. Jesus made up in his own mind that he was going to prove to humanity that death is not real. And so he laid down what? He laid down his life. He said, no man taketh my life. What? I'd lay it down. The Father wouldn't take his life. How can God is the Father of life? He knows nothing but life. How can he take life? So that idea was our idea out of fear. But he said, no man takes my life. I lay it down. Why? Y'all need to know that death is not real, because this is the biggest fear that humanity has, is in death. Because we believe that the body is who we are. And so that needs correction. That concept, that perception, that understanding needs to be corrected. And it needs to be corrected in our thinking sooner than later. Because the longer we behold to that, is the longer we will extend time in which we see the suffering in this world. The correction to that thought is the correction to all the suffering in the world. That correction, if to your own thinking, if your mind is racked with fear and doubt and unbelief and trepidation, if you fear death, if you fear anything in form, if you fear your eternal existence, if you fear what they call the God in the sky, if you fear a sky God, there needs to be correction, because God is love. And in the love, there is no darkness at all. There is no fear, because fear has torment, as the scripture says. So where have our thinking gone wrong? How have we embraced such insanity? It doesn't even make sense to a child. Some of the stories, some of the traditions, some of the misperceptions that we have handed down from generation to generation. I was even a part of that at one point. And it only brought fear and trepidation to me. I know what it feels like to be afraid. I know what it feels like to be doubtful. I know what it feels like to think that I am this separate individual self, separate from everyone and from my God. I know the loneliness of that. I know the depravity of that. And I know the illusion of that. I know the senselessness of that thinking. Now I know the absolute absurdity of seeing myself as something separate from you or something separate from God. And it was in that correction in my perception that caused me to go free and the whole world to go free. I understood the innocence that is everywhere. I understood the deception that has been used, the ego thought system that has been used to bring us to a place of fear and separation, and war and fighting and sickness and disease and suffering and lack and poverty and all of the darkness that we've seen. I understood. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. No man takes a light and put it under a candle, but put it under a bush. No man takes a candle and put it under a bush. No man hides his light." But the light is to be put on display for all the world to see. Your innocence, your wholeness, your completeness, your absolute oneness with God and with everyone is to be put on display. Why? Because that is what is the one thing that is needed to bring awakening and enlightenment and reconciliation to humanity. And so your life becomes purposeful, meaningful, important. Why? Because it is the one will of God that we all share. It is the one interest that we all share. And so a miracle is a correction. That's all I've had to say. It is a correction in our perception. It is a letting go of that which is false, of the false self. It's an embracing of your pure conscious self, your holy self, your divine self, your infinite, impersonal, and self-aware self. That is the correction. And that's why it can happen in an instant. It can happen in a twinkling of an eye. The Course calls it the holy instant. The holy instant is when you wake up and say, "Oh my God, I'm not what I thought I was. I'm not who history said I am. I'm not what my race history is. I'm not what my political history is. I'm not what my religious history is. I'm not what my family history is. I'm not what this country's history is. I am not what humanity's history is. But I am the creation of God, and I remain that way, and so do all humanity." That's the Great Awakening. That is the miracle. That is the correction. And we all need the correction. We all was in error together. We all embraced the idea of separation, the tiny mad idea. It was embraced by us collectively. So we all made the error. We did not sin. We all made the mistake of entertaining a tiny mad idea. And so Jesus has brought us the Course in Miracles, along with so many thousands of other courses and curriculums to help us to wake up. There's thousands of them in the world. It's not just one. There's thousands of paths, thousands of courses, thousands of teachers. So who we think teachers of God are, we would be amazed if we really knew those that were carrying the torch. Those have entered into an agreement with God. To know that the curriculum or the message is the same. And as it said over here, what does it say over here? It says, let me read this to you. It says, the true teacher of God is anyone who have somehow, somewhere made a deliberate choice to which they did not see their interests as apart from anyone else. But they see just the one interest. They see just the one will, that we're all connected, that we're all one with God. And then it goes on to say that all have been called. It's a universal call, but many have not what? Answered the call. But the call is still out here. It says everyone will answer in the end. In other words, that's what Jesus' promise is, that eventually all humanity will wake up to the truth. He said everyone will answer in the end. But the end can be a long, long way off. It is because of this that the plan of the teachers was established. That's why teachers are necessary, because people are delaying in their awakening. So God established teachers to help bring awareness, to help bring the message, the light, that we all are one to the world. Jesus was the first teacher. And so he says their function is to save time or to collapse time. Because remember, time is an illusion too. Remember, everything in this world is temporary. Even time is an illusion. It is not eternal. He says, so the teacher of God function is to save time. It says each one begins as a single light. When you say yes to the call, you begin as a single light of this message of oneness. And it says, but with the call at its center, it is a light that cannot be limited. So when you represent the will of the Father, by understanding that there is only one will, there's only one interest, and we all are a part of that one interest. It said that you may start as a single light, but your light is not limited. Why? Because you have connected, you have aligned yourself with the infinite. So there is no limitation in the infinite. All power, all infinite intelligence have been given unto you, like Jesus said, in heaven and in earth. And therefore we go, what? And be the light of the world. Be the ambassadors for the truth. Be the ambassadors for God. That our life is for God. That we're only here for God. We're only here for love. We're only here for the return of humanity to its natural state of being, which is love. And so it says we're to save time. And it says, and each one of us saves 1,000 years of time as the world judges time. To the call itself, time has no meaning. Why? Because time is an illusion itself. It says, this is a course for every teacher of God. The form of the course varies greatly. Like I said, there's many forms of the course, of God's course. Many forms. It comes through many ways, through many paths, through many people, different nations, different religions. It's, it comes in so many different ways. It says, so do the particular teaching aids involved. There are different teaching aids. The Course in Miracles is just one of them. The Bible is one of them. so many different ways that God is trying to awake us. And we're saying, no, I don't want that because it ain't in this book. I know I don't want to go there because they are of a different people, different color, different race. No, I don't want anything to do with them. No, they can't be true. No, we get so locked into our false self. We get so contained into our comfort zone that we don't even want to hear the truth, let alone become one with it. I know how that feels. I was that way at one time. I was trained to be that way, but I broke out of that. It says, even though there are many forms and various forms in different teaching aids, he says, but the content of every course never changes. The content of God's message has not changed. It says its central theme is always this one thing, and that is God's creation is guiltless. All humanity is guiltless. This is the content of God's course. This is the content of God's message. This is the message that Jesus came to bring to the world. That all the world is going free. That God has reconciled all things back into the one thing, which is love. That was his message. He said, God, creation is guiltless. You are guiltless. All humanity is guiltless. But because we don't know that we're operating out of guilt. And thus you see the craziness in the world. Thus you see the acts that come from a guilty mind, which comes from fear because of the belief in separation. That's what needs to be corrected. There is no separation. I can say it so many ways and so many times. I'm going to keep saying it. There is no separation. You are one with God. God is one with you. You are one with all humanity. All humanity is one with you. Embrace that. Walk in that. You begin to see and feel and experience the light that you are, the oneness that you are with everything. So he said the central theme is the same. God's Son is guiltless. And in God's Son's innocence, guiltless meaning that you're innocent, just like Ephesians 1 says, that before the foundation of the world, God had already preordained that we should be holy and without blame. That without blame means guiltless. That means we should be innocent before him. How? In love. In love. That has never changed. That is a truth and a reality that has never been altered or never changed. We just changed our minds about that reality. We became afraid of love. And thus we create a world of separation and division. And all these acts of love. We went away from our natural state of being, which is love. And so the awakening is no more but a return to love, a return to our true self. And that correction is what the Course is saying is a miracle. He says, God's creation is innocent. It is guiltless. And it is that innocence which is our salvation. That is the guarantee that we have from God, that we are innocent, that we are holy, that we are God. Jesus said to the people of his day, have you not read? Have you not read since you're the holy men of your day? People will fight you when you say you're God or the God class or the God kind. They'll fight you. No, there's only one God. We are just filthy rags. That's how deep it goes. But Jesus told his people of his day, have you not read? Ye are gods. So I'm talking to the people of my day here in 2023. Ye are gods. Have you not read? Ye are the creation of God. Ye are the holy home of God. This is who you are. This is who we are. We need no other solution but to embrace this correction. This is the ultimate correction. And until any human see themselves for the truth of who they are, we play with suffering. We play with fear. We play with misperception. We perceive ourselves incorrectly. We perceive others incorrectly. We perceive our loving source incorrectly. And thus we make a mess. But we are here to correct the mess, because miracles is the correction that we need. Miracles do not create anything. Miracles don't create anything. Remember, miracles, like we said, just like forgiveness, they don't exist in heaven. They don't exist in reality. Why? Because there's nothing in reality that needs a miracle. There's nothing in reality that needs forgiving. There's nothing in reality that needs healing. When you wake up to your reality, there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to heal. And there's nothing to correct. Why? Because we will return to our natural, perfected state of being. We accept ourselves for what God created us to be. And we can now relax. We can now take it easy. We can now do like the Hebrew writer said, that there is a rest for the creation of God, and that we should labor to enter into that rest. What is the rest of God? Knowing who you are, embracing your true reality. So, miracles don't create, nor really do they change anything at all. Why? Because there's nothing need to be changed. When you wake up, you realize everything is okay. Everything is good, very good, as they said in the creation story. And God said it's all good because it's all God. It merely looks upon devastation. This is what a miracle does. This is when you wake up and your mind becomes renewed. When you start looking through the mind of Christ, this is the way you begin to see things. It says the miracle merely looks on the devastation that appears to be in the world. It merely looks upon it and reminds the mind. And it reminds the mind. This is the daily work that we do. Because every day we look on devastation. It's devastation everywhere in the world. We look upon it. This devastation could be right there in your house. And we look upon it. He said, but what the miracle does is it looks on the devastation and reminds the mind that what it sees is false. It's not true. It's not real. It's temporary. It's subject to change, and it's going to change. Everything in this world is going to change except you. And I'm not talking about your physical self, because you know your physical self is going through a whole lot of changes, and there's more to come. But your true self, your divine, formless, and timeless self is the only reality that is here. And it is changeless, and it is unalterable. You are the only reality that is here. All of this stuff in form only exists because of you. You don't exist because of it. but it exists because of you. And so we remind ourselves daily that what we see as devastating in a devastating world, that is false. It's not reality. It is like a dream. And it's only happening because the majority of humanity remains asleep. And if you remain asleep, you remain in a state of separation. You remain in a state of division, in a state of fear. But when you wake up to the truth, the correction has occurred. And you see all things as what? The one thing. And you see God everywhere. Like, Matthew says in the Gospels that what? The pure in heart shall see God in everything and everywhere. Even in devastation. Why? Because you realize that the devastation is not real. Have you noticed that in that world of coming and going, that stuff comes and goes, and it changes and it fluctuates and it varies all the time and all during time and ever since the beginning of time and until the end of time? Everything in this temporal world is subject to change. Look at your own life. Look at your own situations. Look at your own history. Nothing has remained the same. The only thing that has remained the same is the fact that your awareness, your consciousness, that you have been the observer of it all. That's the only thing that remains the same. The same awareness, the same consciousness that you had as an infant, as a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 20-year-old, even an 80-year-old. If you're still here, 90-year-old, the same awareness you had when you was born is the same awareness you have now, and it's timeless, and it's formless, and it's ageless, and it's bodiless. And it's always been there, and it's never been disturbed by the devastation of this world. That's the part of you that is God. That's the part of you that has always been the observer. Observing what appears to be you as a participator in a body. But the mere fact that you can stand apart from any form, any situation, circumstance, or condition, you can stand apart from it and just observe it, lets you know that you are not it. You're not the form. You're not the crisis. You're not the devastation. You're not the dead. You're not the alive. You're not the fearful. You're not the oppressed. You're not the rapist or the raper. You're not the bank robber. You're not the president. You're not the manager. You're not all of these things that roles and all of these roles that we play. We're not that. We have just chose the play of life. And there's no more fun in life, in this 3D life, than to wake up in it and declare like Jesus did, I am in this world. But guess what? I am not of this world. And there's no one as happy as I am doing what I choose to do, but doing everything what? In love and for the purpose, for being the light of the world and demonstrating that love is all that there is. And so it says, we remind the mind that devastation is not real. We remind the mind that this world is not real. Why? Because the mind wants to believe that the world is real. The mind wants to believe that birth and death is real, that poverty and sickness and disease and pain and suffering and all the other atrocities are real. The mind wants to say, oh, that's real. That's reality. Yeah, if it was a reality, it wouldn't change. Nothing real can be altered or changed. The truth cannot be altered or changed. Love cannot be altered or changed. God cannot be altered or changed. And what God creates cannot be altered or changed. That's why you remain the innocent creation of God. You remain as God created you. It only takes a recognition. It doesn't take tithes and offering. It doesn't take any of the things that we do to try to appease God or to appease ourselves. It only takes a recognition. When we recognize this love that we are, then everything that we do will come from a place of love. That's what it says here. That the miracle, remember we said it, that the miracle, it happens naturally. And it's an act of love. It's an act of oneness. It is an awareness that we all have the same interest, that I am one with everyone. There is no separation. It says that the miracle undoes the error in our thinking. That's why we have to remind the mind. The error occurred in our thinking. We're trying to fix it out here in the world of form. You will never fix it in the world of form. It can only be fixed up here. It can only be fixed in our perception, in our correction, in the way we think. It can only be corrected with the truth. And when we know the truth about ourselves and all humanity, in our God, then love becomes easy. You can you can easily now allow people to be where and who they are. You can let go of all the titles, all of the all of the systems that we built, the titles, the parenting. You can let your children go free. Your children can let you go free. We let go of all of our titles: the bishop, the pastor, the president, the CEO. All of these titles that we get caught up in, we can let them all go and let people be what they are. Everyone is in a stage of becoming. Everyone is in a stage of awakening. And when we understand that we let things to be as they are. We don't have to insist on anything. But we can be free in everything, knowing that the end has already occurred. And the end is the same as the beginning. God is. Love is. Reality is. And there is nothing else. That is what prevails. And so, the miracle undoes the error, but does not attempt to go beyond perception. It doesn't attempt to go beyond perception. The miracle corrects our perception. It doesn't appear to go beyond that. It doesn't need to go beyond that. That's all that needs to happen. A shift in our perception. The embracing of what? Christ's vision. To see from God's perspective. To see from the perspective of love. That's the only correction that is needed. From that one correction, we will be guided. And we will come to know exactly how to be, how to shine our light, and what to do from that perspective. And so, nor does the miracle exceed the function of forgiveness. In fact, miracles are evidence of forgiveness. Because if you are holding on to an idea of separation and division, And if you're holding on to an idea of sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, if you're holding on to a grievance towards anyone or anything, then the miracle become even more necessary. The correction needs to becomes even more necessary. But here it says that miracles are the evidence that we have forgiven, that we have let go of our falsehood and embraced reality. Thus, miracle stays within time limits. Why? Because it's a function of time. There's no need for miracles of forgiveness in heaven. It stays within the limits of time, so it doesn't exceed perception, because time is a place of perception. This world is a world of perception. Yet, the miracle paves the way for the return of timelessness and love's awakening. See there? The miracle paves the way for timelessness and the awakening. Of all humanity. Love's awakening. Because love is all there is. Love fell asleep. You fell asleep. When we awake, that's what the miracle is. The awakening. For fear must slip away under the gentle remedy that the miracle brings, that the correction brings. When correction comes, fear slips away. When correction comes, when the miracle comes, guess what happens? Love's awakening, timelessness. We begin to see from God's perspective. We begin to see the pure, and that all things are pure. That there is no separation. There is no devastation. It's only a dream. It's only a hallucination. It's only a fantasy. It's only our vain imaginings that now has been corrected, and we now operate from what? The mind of Christ. And we see what? God. We see love. What? In everything. So, what is your perception of a miracle now? We're going to answer that question along with so many more as we go through these next 10 lessons. You are not only a miracle, but you are a miracle worker. And you need to know that. You need to be that, because you are that. And the miracle is just every act of love that comes from your loving nature. It is a shift in your perception to where we no longer operate from a false self, from a self that believes that it is separate, not only from its maker, but from one another. That is the correction. And we're going to have fun with it. So stay around. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'll be back on tomorrow to finish this introduction to this section on what is a miracle. And I am so excited to dive into this and to learn so much more and to be so much more of my true self. Have a great day, and we'll see you. Bye-bye.